Hey, good evening, Des Moines, Iowa, and the world. This is the Doc and Lefty program broadcasting to you from the Northside Studios and webcast1live.com and docandlefty.com. As always, we're bringing you the perspectives you love from the sides you hate. He's got his Chick-fil-A. He's got his Confederate flag T-shirt. He's sitting across the table. Doc, let's get into it. How is it going?
I don't have a Confederate flag. Hold on. I'm off kilter. I do have an Army of Northern Virginia flag. That is not true. I'm not a Southerner. I don't pretend to be one. I'm a Northerner, and I'm happy to be one. It is.
You're barely a Northerner. You're from Indianola. We're a border state, man.
Oh, well, that's true.
You're the southern side of Iowa.
I moved north. I moved north,
and I declined an invitation to move north. So what does that make me?
Oh my! That makes you a racist.
Well, that has gone without saying this entire time that we've known each other. Although I'm originally from Sioux Falls, which is further north than you.
Oh yeah. Well, and the thing is out of everybody in the studio currently, you are the only one that is pasty white. Almost to the point where he's clear.
That's true. So I am translucent today.
Yes, translucent. That's right. So that should give you an idea what we're going to be talking about today. First, we're going to go through, Ted Cruz got wiped in Indiana. I want to talk this segment about all the big freaking whiners from the Republican Party who gave up their party affiliation and posted it on Facebook. I'm going to take a shot at those guys. And that includes Steve Dace, which, in our business could be dangerous because he does wield some modicum of power. Then we're going to be talking about clickbait, conservatism, clickbait, Democrats. We're going to also talk about how we got, and I mean everybody, was so wrong about Trump. And, we do talk a lot about Trump because, honest to goodness, there's nothing else to talk about. We have, foreign affairs. Which, Lefty actually falls asleep. I say Russia, his eyes do this. And he's out. So we can't talk about that. So we'll stick with those things. How's that sound to you?
Well, there's always plenty to talk about, but I was trying to get some folks lined up. We've got some candidates who are running in the primary. The primary vote, I believe, June 7th, I think is the primary vote. Okay. And I've been meeting even on my rear end forever to get more Democrats on the show, and I've got a couple of guys that would love to do it, but it's getting so close to the primary that their schedules are pretty tight. But I met Nate Bolton yesterday. He's running in my district, senator in my district, to replace Dick Dearden.
Really?
Yeah. Well, he retired. Yeah. And then his daughter is running for the seat. There's no Republican opponent because that side of town, that northeast side of town,
the poor section of town. Why do poor people vote for Democrats?
Well, we'll talk. Well,
because they just remain poor after that.
It doesn't help when the Republican Party is stacked up against them. But
like it is over there in Dearden's thing.
But I would say that it's also a diverse district, and we all know how much the Republicans love diversity
we love it a lot. We appointed the very first black female Secretary of State. That happens to be overlooked a lot. Okay. I wish I had that picture of his face on that screen.
Okay. So you still nominated a white billionaire. I mean, what can I tell you? A white male billionaire. What can I tell you?
Well, you nominated an old white female. And you haven't even nominated her yet.
It lady.
Could be if Sanders wins.
How?
If he does.
There's no if.
There's the same chance he could get the nomination, and it's the same chance Ted Cruz has of getting the nomination in a contested convention.
I think Bernie's is slightly better than Ted's, and a contested convention isn't going to happen.
Yes,
though.
That's true.
But no, we'll get into all of that stuff. But yeah, there's no Republican running, and so whoever wins the primary is going to take the general in November. I'm trying to get a couple of the Democrats running in the Senate primary to go up against Chuck in the fall to come on. Bob Kraus expressed interest. Wasn't able to talk to Patty Judge. Rob Hogue expressed some interest, and so I just got to follow up on those and make the schedule work. And I'll tell you what, I went to a forum where those four were speaking. Tom Fegan, Patty Judge, Bob Kraus, and Rob Hogue, and I think when Patty announced all the rank and file Democrats kind of said, oh my gosh, okay, well we love Patty Judge. She's our lieutenant governor, our secretary of ag. Let's get out of the way. But I'll tell you what, Rob Hogue is ready for prime time.
Think so?
Yeah, I think so. He not the firebrand of a Tom Fegan, but I think that's okay. He was the only guy in the room to get a laugh, which is always valuable in politics, and he was the guy that had sort of a positive vision of a campaign. Although I did like Patty's closing line, I will say, because somebody asked her about a negative ad that she'd run against one of her opponents, and if she's going to have that, and that it was shocking coming from her, and if she's going to run negative ads against Grassley in the fall. And I think she was referring to the general election, but she could have been referring to something else. So if I misheard this, don't hold it against her. But she said, I told my family not to watch TV during the fall because they're not going to like what they see. And I thought that cracked me up a little bit. That, throwing the gauntlet down.
All right, that sounds good.
So be looking for those. Look for some of those folks to be on the show here, ramping up. I don't know if we're going to get them before the primary vote, but it would be interesting to get the winners to see what their strategy is going to be like in the fall, especially the Senate race, to see what they think about.
Well, I think their strategy against Grassley is going to go, hi, we're going to walk into this buzzsaw called the Grassley reelection campaign.
The Democratic sacrificial lamb.
Yes, and I am the Judas goat.
I'll tell you what. Strategy. I'll tell you what, though. On paper, this is and we'll talk about this here in a second about the Republican Party and Trump and stuff. But on paper, this is probably the most vulnerable that Chuck Grassley has been in 30 years. On paper, if you from the Democratic side, you've got a senior Republican who has become the national face of obstructionism and stand in front of this Supreme Court nomination for naked partisan reasons, who also now has come out and said that Donald Trump would be a good nominee for the party, is getting behind Donald Trump. I think that if you're from outside, if you're the outside beltway looking in, you think, boy, Chuck Grassley, oh my gosh, he's vulnerable. I think all of us understand that's probably not the case.
Yes.
But it's certainly more vulnerable than when Roxanne Conlon ran against him, certainly more vulnerable than years past. So we'll see.
Yeah. Now, next week, we have Dan Charleston, who's running for Polk County Sheriff. He's agreed to come on the show, and so we're excited about that.
When's the last time that seat was contested? Do you remember?
The last time he ran for it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was the guy that ran against, I think it's McCarthy.
It's Bill McCarthy, yeah.
Ran against McCarthy and lost, and he's taking another run at it. His issue is one of my favorites, traffic cams. So we're going to talk to him about that, about what it's like running for sheriff. One of the things I am going to say is, even though this is probably one of the most vulnerable years that Grassley's ever had.
No, I mean in content, like on paper.
On paper, however you want to view it. The bottom line is that's kind of like saying, well, that little guy in Tiananmen Square that was standing there in front of the tank, had that tank decided he was going to move forward, that's about how vulnerable he is. He's the guy in the tank.
Well, Tom Harkin beat a well-loved incumbent senator.
I'm going to, because I worked for that senator that he beat, and I'm going to tell you.
He'd been in office for a long time.
Roger Jepson? Yes, but Jepson was not well known or not well loved. You have to keep in mind that there are perks to being in Congress. One of them is if you can go 1,000 miles an hour and doing whatever's drunk as a skunk, and all you got to do is say, well, I'm going to Congress. I'm going to go cast a vote. And they cannot pull you over and they cannot detain you. You get to go. And he was speeding on the Beltway and got pulled over, and that's what he used as an excuse to get out of it. That was a very unpopular move. The second thing is he had joined this thing called 1310 Keo. Now, you're not from around here.
Nope.
But I can tell you, as a 15-year-old kid standing there in his office, as he was telling us the story about how he joined a health club, and it turns out it was a den of iniquity, I actually laughed. I was in the back of the room, and he was telling the story, and then he said 1310 Keo, and I started laughing. I got in a lot of trouble for that. I just let you know. Anyway, the administrator, the head guy, they call him AAs, turns around, shushes me down, talks to me about all this other stuff, And honest to goodness, I told this guy, whose name I can't remember, I told him, I said, if your line really is going to be that he joined this health club and then he was there for 10 minutes and then discovered it was a whorehouse, then you better start packing your bags because nobody's going to believe it. And that's exactly the story they stayed with. Nobody believed it because of all the local boys all know 13, my age anyway, and older, all know 1310 Keo because you walk in the front doors, they have the price list and the things they will do right there on the front door. It would be like you can't tell our studio, but we have an outer door and then you come into Maddie's area and then you have an inner door. That area is really small, and it was about half the size of our lobby. And right on that inner door, before you could even go in, had a price list. You hit a button, you asked, hey, is anybody there? And then you would sit and wait. So there's absolutely no way that could have been a legitimate excuse. And because of those two things, Harkin mopped the floor with Roger.
Right, but that made him vulnerable. That made him a well-loved, long-term senator, vulnerable in an election year. I mean, that's kind of what I just said. That on paper, now that Grassley looks vulnerable on paper, I don't think it's going to translate.
But it's not a These were grievous wounds. This standing up against the president on SCOTUS is not a grievous wound for Senator Grassley, because people on the left are going to come after him anyway. Doesn't matter if he's standing up for SCOTUS.
Yeah.
We're way over. We want to just skip the commercial?
Yeah, let's keep going. Let's just keep on.
All right. Anyway, but that's an interesting bit of trivia, and this is how. And if you look at how Harkin has run his campaign ever since, that's what he does. He will find the worst dirt he can find, throw it on everybody, and then stand back and let his minions go to town. Brilliant politician. I have had nothing but utmost respect for his political skills.
So you brought up the death spiral of the Republican Party, so you called it. I mean, we talk about this all the time, but okay, I gotta know right now. Donald Trump is going to be your nominee. Donald Trump is the presumptive Republican nominee. Ted Cruz came out with something today saying, well, if there's a path and somebody gets behind me, then I'll unsuspend and go to the convention. God bless him. He is the most arrogant, self-serving guy, but you love him because he can't seem to help himself. Scott Walker suspends and goes away, right? He realizes there's no path, that there's no support, suspends and walks away. Marco Rubio suspends and walks away. Jeb Bush raised all that money, blew all that money, has all these millionaires and billionaires upset with him, suspends and walks away. Ted Cruz suspends and walks away. Oh man, he can't walk away. He can't quit the Republican race.
Well,
Ted Cruz.
It's kind of like Brokeback Mountain.
I
can't quit you.
Names a VP pick.
Oh yeah, I'm going to tell you. Now we both have met and talked with Steve Deace a little bit here and there.
Yep.
Right. And I'm going to tell you that Steve is simply beside himself that Cruz didn't go. Cruz won big in Iowa, which is necessary, and in fact, this is going to be a rare event where the person who won Iowa is not going to be the nominee, right? And
not so rare on the Republican side.
Yeah, fairly rare.
No, Santorum, Huckabee. Neither of those two are the nominees.
Well, that's true. So, thanks for Lefty for bursting my bubble.
Just want to keep you honest, buddy.
But anyway, I asked on Facebook because Steve was out there, and I was like, "How do you even see that this is a good idea to name a vice presidential candidate?" Oh well, geez, like Reagan in '76. Well, that didn't work.
No, it didn't work.
And two, you're like, well, hold on. You're asking somebody who, in all honesty, is less popular than you to be a vice presidential candidate. Rubio would have been better. Huck would have been better. For crying out loud, trying to get Joni Ernst to go on would have been better, right? And the bottom line is it was misstep after misstep after misstep, beginning with sticking his thumb in the eye of the establishment. Now, everybody loves doing that, but he also stuck his thumb in the eye of people that didn't deserve it. We talked about how badly he treated Ben Carson, right? He treats people poorly on the campaign trail.
Terrible candidate.
He's not a likable guy.
Terrible candidate.
the other thing is, and honest to God, I hate even mentioning this, but he looks like Grandpa Munster. When you have a paper from a psychologist backed up by a psychiatrist talking about how he looks, why his face makes you uncomfortable, that spells doom. It's this question that, and we love Sam Clovis, but it's a question we asked him. You understand that you're on TV and you have to look good. Don't get me wrong, he's got nice suits, but he has a face that's uncomfortable. He has a voice that is grating, which has been described over and over, plus with the way he plays politics. So I asked Steve, how is this going to boost how's naming a vice presidential candidate? Well, it completely backfired, just the way it did with Reagan. How it backfired is wow, isn't that a big dose of arrogance to name a vice presidential candidate? And it's been one misstep after another. The Krusich thing was terrible. The way he treated Carson made front page newspapers. He and Rubio, didn't get along well. And the bottom line is, the moment he attacked Trump, because he was the last man standing, boom, it was over.
Well, you can't. But see, the thing is with him, he wants to preach he wanted to preach authenticity the entire time. He was the only guy that was telling you the truth. And Donald did a pretty good job of taking that away, although I don't think the Lion Ted thing really had that much effect on him. But you can't say that you're this truth teller, that you're the only person standing up for values, and that you're an honest broker, when at the beginning of the campaign you say, I love Donald Trump, get over it. And then at the end of the campaign, he says the worst thing to happen to the government since you can't remember when. He had there was no nuance to anything that he did. Fundamentally flawed candidate, and just cracks me up every time he opens his mouth. He cracks me up.
Well, and part of the and this, this next point is going to lose me a lot of very Christian conservative friends. Ted Cruz answered all the questions correctly for the Let's Make Our Party Pure group. He answered all the questions correctly. You see where that got him. That did give him an extended campaign, but it also got him stomped on in the important battleground states. When you're barely able to carry your own state, that means you're in a lot of trouble. And one of the things I keep pointing out, Doug Gross is right, you have to have numbers on your side. And you can't have a candidate who's going to motivate the base to come out to defeat you. The other thing is, and this is what goes to Lefty's point, there is Ted Cruz being very consistent in his message. But it's not a message of positivity. Nope. It's a message of negativity. You can't sit there. Yeah, he might not have lied. He might, whatever it is. But the bottom line is he was, well, I'm not Trump for a long time. I'm not Obama. Obama sucks. Vote for me because, Obama is terrible. And when you're trying to win an election, you have to talk about what?
What you got to vote for.
What do you got to vote for? Jobs, economy, right? Healthcare, whatever it is that people care about. The truth is, most voters don't care about gay marriage. Most voters don't care about abortion. They don't. There is a small group of people that will vote strictly based upon your abortion stance. I'm one. My ex-wife is one. I don't know anybody else. Even Catholics of the church I go to, a lot of times they go, well, yeah, but if everything else lines up, but they're for abortion, they'll still vote for that person. It comes down to a numbers game. Now we're about ready to go along again. What are we going to talk about next segment? Same stuff?
Well, let's keep going.
All right, we'll keep going on this subject, death spiral of the Republican Party. We want to thank all of our sponsors. Oh, without you, we can do what we do. See, I keep forgetting my little tagline. Here's our sponsors, Des Moines Anesthesia at 515-574-6442. They do anesthesia and pain management. They're getting harder and harder to find. They have offices here in Des Moines and Fort Dodge. Halo Capital at DesMoinesInterestrates.com. Lubinas Law Firm at Lubinas.com. And Bertrosian Associates. We'll be back right after this break. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in.